Welcome to the No Choice, Love Yourself podcast with me, Praggya Beniwal, your host. I'm a 2-4 mental projector on the right angle cross of penetration that is looking to have deep and real conversations with people in their human design experiment. My guest today is Simone Foerster, a 1-3 mental projector on the right angle cross of the unexpected. Sim's mental definition comes through her half-conscious and half-unconscious channel of structuring. Sim has a mind that works in pulses and moves between knowing and not knowing, between melancholy and bursts of creative mutation. She is designed to bring unexpected insights that reveal various possibilities to fulfill the needs of others. Simone is designed to make decisions by reaching clarity through the process of soundboarding, which is backed by her taste cognition. Simone thrives in environments that are acoustically inspiring for her. Now that we know a little bit about her, let's get into the episode. Sim, my dear
Yes.
friend, the first thing that I wanted to ask you was, when did you find out that you're a mental projector? And how did that sit with you? Did you have an immediate recognition of, that's me, I recognize that? Or did it take you a while to come to terms with that design? Because I was having a look at your design and I could see that there are a lot of unconscious activations in your throat, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if you immediately recognize that you are here to share your mutative insights, and whether you know it or not, in some way you've been doing that all your life.
That's such a cool question, really. I heard it in 2014 and it didn't land. What landed was the piece that projector. The person who explained it to me was kind of, yeah, you're here to be a lighthouse. You're here to be share awareness, not to work. It was a very classical boxed in description, but I could really identify with some of those pieces and feeling really, really exhausted. And she was a certified practitioner, and she was talking about the undefined sacral and what that means. The mental authority, the environmental authority, the soundboarding, all of that, just didn't understand it. It was not only that it wasn't landing, I was kind of, what? No inner authority, but I feel I have an inner compass. So it was all confusing and weird. And it really took some time, as you can imagine, first-line personality, investigator, researcher. I went into all the possible rabbit holes, YouTube one of them, but also personal teachers. And I tried and tasted a variety, and it took a while until, oh yeah. So it has to do with hearing myself speak to come to my own clarity. Now that makes sense, because as a child, I have been, and we have been talking about that before you pressed the recording button. I have been often catched by any sort of adult. Are you talking to yourself? I was talking to myself. I was singing to myself, but it was all shamed. So a lot of expression of my voice has been shamed, and it's been a journey to reclaim my voice and to really understand, not here, but here inside, what the importance of voice, expression, sharing what has been conceptualized in the ajna is really meaning for a mental projector. So it is, I think the mental projector is slow, and it's been a slow process to understanding that whole complex thing of being a mental projector.
Yeah. And I think a point to highlight here as well that I see is that you are a pure individual. The only definition that you have is individual definition. And actually, you have 3 gates out of the 4 in the stream of knowing, right? And so this is a mind that is quite unique, quite individualistic and often looked at as a threat by their environment, unless, of course, you're properly invited. And like you also mentioned, yeah, there is the piece of being invited and recognized, but there's also a mental projector really developing in their process because, you know, as intellectual beings, it's not as straightforward. It really is a lifelong process of working with your mind, especially when it can be so dysfunctional as well, right? And for you to learn how to articulate exactly at the right time. So it is really quite a journey as a mental projector to really be able to share your insights or for me to share my logic. So there are a lot of nuances here, but I think what I would like to hear a little bit about from you is what is it like having this individualistic, genius, freaky mind that oftentimes is not accepted by most people. And it's not like it is here to be accepted by most people for whom this mind is there. It's such a huge resource and it can be the source of some massive change in people's life. But what is it like for an individual mental projector to grow up in the world?
Well, there's such beautiful questions. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Um, when you think back, it's 10 years since I heard first about that whole concept, human design, mental projector, energy types, etc. And it is only, I would say, 2 years ago, so process of 8 years, in really shedding that this is part of my gift, that this, even though other people, and you're very spot on, other people have been trying to suppress the power of my voice, the power of my quick-witted mind in many shapes and forms, until the point that I started to believe that there's seriously something wrong with me for being so different in my thinking process than other people. I feel like I have a gigantic machine up there. And instead of appreciating it for the beauty and to see, oh, this is, as we say in human design, this is an outer authority for the other. I can't really use it so much for myself, but there's so much beauty in it. It is part of my role to conceptualize things, to wait for the right timing, to share insights that are very innovative, very future-oriented, very out of the box. There is no box, actually, right? But it's not always there as that channel functions in a pulse. So that was also confusing for me. Wait, sometimes I have access to that insight, and other times I feel like crap. So I don't know if that answers your question, but when you only have individual channel definition, you feel like a freak, you feel like a weirdo, and you don't need the channel from genius to freak to feel like that. It enhances it, it makes it even stronger, and it takes a lot of patience, acceptance, and eventually accepting yourself that much so that people come into your field to reflect the beauty of that channel. This is what happened to me. There were people saying, wow, this is brilliant. And people started to want to see my perspective. And this is what a projector is here for, to share what you see, to share your perspective, to share your awareness. In my case, it's filtered through seeing possibilities, possibility view. So in a nutshell, it's been a tough ride. And it took me also a long while to understand there is nothing wrong to be an outsider. This will never change in your life. But there will be a time, and this is what I'm starting to strongly feel, where people want that from you because it is part of your contribution to the world, Sim. Yeah.
I love that. I think that I would love to hear your thoughts on recognition. You know, first and foremost, self-recognition as a projector And then secondly, how do you see recognition different from when someone likes our attention? Or how do you see recognition different from attraction when someone is attracted to what we are, right? Because there is a lot of nuance to it. And I think what I would really love to hear more about is how it feels in your body. How does recognition feel in your system? How do you know you're recognized? Not, oh, I have the genius to freak channel, so I'm here to be recognized for my unique mind, my mutative mind. Like, okay, we get that.
Yeah.
But how does it feel for you experientially?
Yeah, I get where you're going. In very short terms, it is a sensation in my body that makes me wide and super spacious. It is often connected to warmth, a warm, fuzzy feeling. And it is certainly a sensation that I have no access to. I cannot manipulate that. I cannot create or reproduce that specific sensation in my body. It is like a big sigh. My body's sighing, opening, receiving. And bet you I'm deaf. I do not just take random recognition. I'm not that desperate anymore that please recognize me, because I have been and have huge compassion. And you know what? I want to just for a little moment speak to something what you had on the line before. I think how much you can recognize yourself has to do with how much you can accept your level of loneliness. Because let's move away from my channel. Let's just say, even being a projector some years ago has been a very freaky thing in the homogenized, in the mainstream world. So, coming to terms that, yes, there are actually many people, even in family and friendships, that do not understand me. That turns into feeling lonely. That turns into, gosh, I gotta look at my shit because I gotta somehow learn how to hold myself. And that leads to, at some point, eventually, understanding in your body that it is really cool and a mechanical necessity to receive recognition when you want to have a move on with the invitation. But you really, how can I say that? It's about not needing recognition from anyone who runs around on the street. Please recognize me. That is so off-putting. And I can feel it from having been there and from having received it. And it is really about that. Leaning back, learning to see the beauty in your mess, recognizing that, and not wanting anything from anyone. And then we come to the point of your question where, how does recognition feel? If I can just speak for myself, if I'm minding my business and when I'm alone, I have 7 open centers, I'm pretty chill. I don't have so many stakes in emotional drama. I have an open solar plexus. I'm pretty chill minding my business when I'm in a good environment, which is actually the case. And just puttering around. And then when my focus turns on, I work on things. And when then, kind of unexpectedly, someone comes and recognizes me because they find something in my energy attractive, it's like, ooh, and it feels real in the body. Whereas a compliment is more like a nicety. It's also nice to receive, even though I'm not good in receiving compliments, but it is nice. But it is like a compliment stays up here and recognition ripples through the whole body, if that makes sense. Yeah. Does it answer your question?
I love that. I love that. I really relate with that. When someone mentally says something nice, I mean, every projector, I mean, they'd be lying. Any compliment feels good, you know?
Yeah, of course.
We're just like designed to receive recognition. And I think a lot of us haven't received adequate amounts of recognition growing up. And so there is this kind of deep desire to be recognized. And so when a compliment comes in, it feels really good. But what you're saying about recognition fills up your entire body, and a compliment just feels kind of nice, like, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
it's good to have, but it's not the real thing. And I think you made an excellent point about not needing recognition in the first place, or I would even say that differently, is like learning as a projector to recognize yourself. And I think that can be very hard because we do have these probing, focused, absorbing auras that are pointed outwards. And there, if we don't get feedback from the outside world, we can get very lost in understanding who we are. But I think having really good relationships really helps for a projector to learn to recognize themselves, to learn to recognize themselves through that reflection. And when you do get to that baseline of recognition for yourself, then it's not really about like, I need that from you all the time. At some point of time, it switches to, actually, I have enough of a reflection of myself to know who I am. And I'm going to trust in that. And I'm going to believe in that. And I'm going to know within myself that that is valuable, right? That that is something that is of immense help when it is shared with the right person, when it is invited in. And then in those times when there is this lull, which is, by the way, a part of every single projector's life. I mean, when we look at some of the projectors that are online and we look at them and we think like, wow, they don't have these spaces when things are really quiet. And I actually don't know if I'm doing something wrong with my experiment or what's going on with my life. I know sometimes I used to feel that way, but the truth is that every single projector has those periods of rest. And that's what I like to think of those periods as. It's not like, oh, I'm not being invited and recognized. It's more like, hey, I'm actually being invited to rest. I'm actually being invited to level up. I'm actually being invited to master something even more. I'm actually being invited to study, to understand, specifically for me, because I am a mental projector, and for you as well, for you to conceptualize more. And that is the invitation there when there are no tangible invitations with other human beings. So there is that part, the self-recognition piece that we have. And I think one of the other things that I love to talk about is that projectors can get very like, I'm going to value myself, like I'm going to recognize myself. But the mind is like underneath it. It's like, and when I do that, I'll get invited. And when I do that, I'll get recognized. And that is
Such
the
a
thing that I
sneaky
want
bitch.
that is the thing I want to call out. Because if you're a projector that's like, I'm going to chill because that is what is going to bring out more invitations my way, then you have to recognize that it's just your mind that is convinced that this is the way to manipulate life into giving you invitations. That is not what it means to be a projector. To be a projector is to not need invitations in a certain way, right? Because ultimately, you know that you're here. Like, at least this is the way that I see it. I'm here. I'm alive. I have this design, and so therefore I am a droplet in the ocean. The entire ocean has its functioning. I have a little purpose in it. I will be utilized when I'm utilized. But it's not up to me to create that or to pace that, or it's not up to me to make that happen. What is up to me is to be the intellectual being that I am designed to be and to invest in my own intellectual pursuits and to continue to do that because that is who I am. Not continue to do that because I need something from someone, right? So there's lots of ways that the mind can step in. I'm wondering if you have some examples or something that you can share with us about when your mind stepped in to sabotage, where on the surface you could see, oh, I'm being a good projector. But underneath it, it was just your mind that was running the show in a whole different way.
With my son, sometimes he is just for context, a 4/6 emotional management. There's a lot of obviously third line phase. He's 20. It takes a lot of discipline from me to let him make his own process. Most of the time, I'm really kind of doing pretty fine, not interfering, kind of letting him roll his life, giving him loads of freedom, asking him good questions. I'm a good projector. And then I catch myself, and there is a slight manipulative tendency in every projector, not consciously. It's really, we don't need to be ashamed of that. It's just part of the process. But I'm asking him a question, and in that question, there is no longer the innocent flavor of that he can respond with either or yes or no. I'm subtly giving him already the direction. And then, do you know how I notice? I notice it in his response, and then I get sad. I get sad because I don't want to manipulate anyone in any shape or form, but it happens. And I want, especially us mental projectors, to cut ourselves some slack. I find self-acceptance is one of the biggest healing proponents on your journey for every person. And I don't know, just accepting, yeah, this just happened. And then when I notice it, when I'm awaken up, when I notice in his response that he says something, yeah, I really want to ask your opinion, or I really want to hear what you've got to say, or I think when you say that, I think it's good. Then I notice, no, I need to pivot. And then I think, it's not about what I think is good. I can't tell you what to do. It's about what you feel and what feels correct for you over time. And then I try to pivot and ask the question in a different way. And also what helped me is being honest with him. Whenever I noticed that, I said, oh, I just catched myself in a behavior that is not supportive. I'm sorry. I wasn't aware of it. And then he, oh, really? You just always have such good advice. And he's not catching the nuance yet, but I catch it. And this is an example, right? Of, yeah.
I love that so much. And I think there's so many like subtle things that you're saying here. The first that I'm picking up is like, first of all, when you do as a mental projector catch, or anyone, to be honest, we all have manipulative minds. That's how human beings have survived and gotten on top of the food chain as we have. Every single person has a manipulative mind. So one, that's for us to accept. And then for me, I think where it gets really fun and interesting as a mental projector, because you really cannot shut your mind off, and you really have the capacity to really be caught in it and be oblivious to what's happening, and then feel ashamed when you catch that. So I think what you're bringing forward is such a beautiful point. When you catch yourself, like, that is not a point to shame yourself. In fact, I like to now think of it as, ooh, I got you. You know, it kind of becomes like a game. I caught you, you know, I saw you. And it becomes more playful than, oh my God, I am now a manipulative, toxic person. I'm trying to control people. And we can get into that, because ultimately, I think every single projector inherently is designed to be in service of other people.
Yeah.
And regardless of where you are at in your journey, there is that inherent knowing that I'm here to serve people. And so then when you catch yourself in these moments when you can see you're wanting a certain end result instead of guiding, which is very different, two very, very different things, it can be really shocking to come face to face with that. But I think it's really a necessary part of the projector journey to come face to face with that, right?
Oh, yeah. Glory and mess. You cannot exclude one from the other. And that's like we're at the end or along the way, a really holistic experience when you can laugh about what happens or when you can at least pause for a moment. So wait a minute, why does it feel so awkward in my body? Why does it feel so constricted? Take a moment to listen and to feel and have no shame. Being human shouldn't be shameful, right? And yeah, I cannot emphasize enough. That's why I'm repeating it, that self-acceptance and also self-compassion. You did fuck up. I mean, I have a third line body. I have fucked up a lot of things. I have a lot of things I'm ashamed for. I have a lot of things where I thought I'm a failure. Do you think that it helps when I hammer onto me and tell me the story that I have heard over and over again in my childhood? The story of shame and not being good enough and blah, 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 blah. No need even to repeat it because it's not true. No, but what has really helped me on my journey is to do, when you're overwhelmed, this is a message for mental projector. When you're overwhelmed and you say, yeah, what is all that stuff getting into your body and hearing your voice, and when everything is kind of too much, you know what? Just take a moment, and when you notice that you're hard on yourself, just do the opposite. Be soft to yourself. If someone always told you, I mean, I'm going to give you one example. I've been hearing over and over again, I wish you were not here, in my childhood. You know what I did when I started my process? Really, like for real, getting deep into the experiment? It was not planned, but some morning I noticed I was getting up in the bathroom, looking in the mirror, and I was saying, hey, beautiful, I'm glad you're alive. And I was kind of, wow. And I was doing the opposite. And that's how you step out of shame, by doing the opposite and by speaking with others. First, maybe with your intimate circle, at some point, maybe publicly. And that's how you break the chain. Learn to discern the beauty, learn your task, learn what your outer authority really has of value, and learn the differences. Learn how your not self-mind sounds, learn how the beauty, when you conceptualize sounds, get intimate with your mind so that other people don't have the power anymore to shame you for being mental. That was a pep talk for mental projectors.
I feel like I needed it. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. There is, I mean, you can feel really deficient as a mental projector.
Oh,
You know, people may want you to have a lot more energy. People may expect you to work. People may expect you to make energetic contributions. People may need you to hurry up. People may need you to know who you are and your identity instead of understanding the world and knowing the world and being able to structure it. Like the expectations on the material plane are actually quite vast and diverse. And here, yet we are mental projectors with either 3 or 2 centers defined and having nothing to do with energy and only to do with communication. And, you know, like we mentioned even previously, like a mental projector's journey isn't really as, oh, you're born a mental projector and now you can share your outer authority. Well, guess what? Getting to the point of sharing your outer authority takes most of your life. Learning to develop your mind in the way, because a lot of years of my life I wasted just spiraling about my own life. And I now say wasted because I know that there's such a better way of using my mind, but I also know that it served me to be able to see my mind in that state and to see how bad it can be when I do let it spiral in that way, right? We can feel so deficient. We can feel so deficient because what we bring to the table requires time. What we bring to the table requires a process over all time. That's the ajna process. What we bring to the table requires for us to learn how to articulate, for us requires how to be patient with our own conceptualization, requires for us to develop skills that it really takes to bring forward a concept in a way that it really sticks or it really lands, that it can be received, right? And we're dealing oftentimes with very different people. So I guess what I'm saying is that a mental projector's life process is really just that, a process. And then it's no surprise that our authority is a process-based authority, right? Because just like our life is such a deep, deep process, so is our process of getting to our clarity. So I wanted to ask you about what it feels like for you to be clear on something. Like, how do you access your authority? Right? And I know that different mental projectors, I mean, of course, soundboarding is at the center of it, but it's not just that. There's a lot that goes into that, right? How do you access your authority? And when you do have that clarity, how do you know that you're clear?
Yeah, I want to answer backwards. How do I know that I feel clear? Inside of me, it feels calm, yet exciting. Those two go together. And I feel an incredible clean power in my throat. And this has nothing to do, I can have a cold and my voice is probably tainted. That is the inner knowing that I have now something important to say, and it is the right moment, and I'm clear about it. And it's in the throat, and it's an overall body sensation of, it's almost like a little lighthearted, calm, and that's how I would describe it when I have reached clarity, and a groundedness in myself, a confidence, self-empowered. How do I get there? Well, I learned a lot with you and with our beautiful friend Mar of what it really means to express as a mental projector and our cave as Voxer, and that the soundboarding process has many, many nuances. And I can share about that also if you want. But then for me, other than speaking and being given the space to speak through it until I can hear that something in my frequency of my voice shifts and I can hear my own truth, even without you reflecting it back, that's a nice add-on. But actually, I need to feel it for myself. And that's important to know as a mental projector. You got to feel in your body how your truth feels. And that is different for everyone. And it takes practice and time and patience. But also, the environment to me matters just a lot, as I guess for every mental projector. And there are environments where I feel like I can literally, I feel like my aura is expanding. And I know it sounds stupid because the aura is the aura, but it feels like in some places it is constricted, and in other places it's vast. And then I can hear myself better. I get even insights from, okay, might sound really weird, but I can get insights from a tree. I can get insights from being recalibrated by nature. I can get insights when I do an activity which is so playful and nurturing for me that out of the sun it's like, ooh. And other people might have that when they're under the shower, they have those ooh moments, right? So I would say the speaking through it, the soundboarding, and this is an art as well for both sides, for those who are on the receiving end and for the mental projector, is kind of, it's a main factor. But as you say, it's not the only one. And go play with it. Go find out for yourself. I just shared mine. What are yours? I would be happy to hear what are yours.
I think one of the first most important things for me is I need to process the energy that I've absorbed, because oftentimes, like I'm taking in a lot, and a lot of that energy that I've absorbed from others stands in the way of me even getting to the topic of, okay, I have a decision to make. It's more about, I feel a bit of discomfort here in my system. So my big practice is to clean my system, whether I do that through working out, or I take a nice, lovely bath, or I do some energy work, or I just spend alone time in my own aura resting. That's first and foremost, like energetic hygiene for me when making a decision or in life in general is so, so, so important, right? So that's one way of like climbing up the process of soundboarding. The second is obviously processing it through my voice, because as much as I can release it physically, what really, really bring things to clarity for me is using my throat, is to naming everything. I mean, I have the 1762. I'm really here to like name everything that I'm receiving in my system, right? So you'll hear this in my soundboarding a lot. Like I'll go through this process of breaking down what's happening here and how is this nuance adding to that, and naming everything. And and it's a process of organization. So through my voice, I organize energy and make sense of it. And then at some point of time through it, I can hear, this is conditioning. I've processed this, I've looked at it, I've named it, I can recognize it, I can see it. This is conditioning, right? What's really important for me underneath all of this? And exactly like you said, for me, it is really a process of hearing it. And I think you've heard it a gazillion times in my voice, where you're so right. I don't need you to tell me I have my clarity. You just know by the frequency of what you've said and how it feels in your body that you don't need to talk about it more. And oftentimes you'll hear with me, like, I don't need to talk about it more. I'm done. I've got it.
I'm done. Yeah.
I've got it, So it is so true that it's unique for every single mental projector. And we have to know for ourselves what that frequency is. And exactly what you said, it comes through doing it often. And hopefully with people that can really let you be in the process of soundboarding. I would actually love to hear some more nuances about the soundboarding process, if you wanted to share them. Like, what's helpful for you? Do you like to be asked questions? Do you like to just have people sit back and listen? Do you like to hear reflections? I mean, there's so many different ways of soundboarding. And I feel like the common advice that is out there is you want people that don't give you advice, right? That just sit back and listen to you talk as much as you want to. I, as a mental projector, don't always find that to be super helpful. Yes, sometimes I just need to talk and not have someone share what they feel. But oftentimes, having, especially like an awareness being around me and asking me questions can help me go so much deeper into my process and my clarity. So what works for you?
Yeah. I love to. You must have picked it up that I want to say more about it. But first I want to highlight, you were talking about energetic hygiene, and I was thinking kind of, oops, that has become so normal for me. And I do remember vividly times where, what is that? So I appreciate that you brought that up, because it is really like a prerequisite to even get to hear yourself. And I was just noticing there's so many things I am doing now naturally without thinking. For example, where I'm at now, there's a lot of possibility to get my hands in the dirt. I don't know what it is, but it helps me tremendously. Whether that is plucking weeds or whether that is watering the plants, and then like a little girl walking barefoot on the mud, it's like, yum, or jumping into the saltwater pool. And I'm fully aware that not everyone where they are can do that. I'm just sharing what works now. So find out what works for you. That's one thing. And when it comes to the soundboarding, I have to say that there's such liberation when you take a concept, which is really okay, but then you play with it. And then you find out, okay, Ra has been saying that, and Ra has not actually said a lot about mental projectors, unfortunately. So we got to figure out ourselves somewhat and in connection with people who are aware. So the first thing, what I can tell you, what does absolutely not work for me, and this has never changed. This has always been like that. Maybe it will change one day. I cannot soundboard with any random stranger. That's specific about me, and I know other mental projectors can do that. So I remember our beautiful friend Mar said to me when I was saying, yeah, it's so great to have you, but I need kind of more people. I felt like I need more people to soundboard with, and I didn't have one. And obviously you cannot initiate a soundboard relationship. And they were saying, oh yeah, there's that great group. And you can just hop in there and ask of only mental projectors. And if someone is available, and I was kind of, ooh, gross. It was such a distaste for me. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but for me, this doesn't work. I'm a very discreet person. I'm a very intimate person. I got to know the person I'm talking to because what comes out of my throat is deep shit and it's highly personal. So that doesn't work. What works really well is being in the moment. I cannot tell you that my soundboarding process every time is the same because it just isn't. It depends on the topic. It depends on in what state I am in that situation. Am I super stressed? Am I relaxed? Whatever. But there's one key component, what I always need as a mental projector, and that is to feel, and the other person can't fake that, to feel that they are open, ready, and have the space and time to receive me. Because what is hugely off-putting is a timeline on my expression. I would rather wait than to hop on a call with a friend who says, you know, Watson, I got 15 minutes. And I said, in 15 minutes, I have just inhaled. Yeah. What are you talking about? You know? So I don't it. And, you know, here's the point. It does not need to be very long all the time. That's a lie as well. It is just not standardized. So feeling in the other person, the spaciousness, feeling like it's almost like a clean slate. I think Amy Lee from the Human Design Collective described it so beautifully. It's like you open a faucet, and then first, maybe when it hasn't been used for a long time, brownish water comes out. And after a while, there is this pristine, clear water. And this is really the mental projector soundboarding process because it takes time. And I can only do that with people I know and trust. There comes a lot of shit out at the beginning. There comes stupid stuff out, and I got to feel free. But then eventually, such pristine awareness comes out that sometimes I'm in awe of myself. It's like, whoa, you just said that? Oh, I'm going to go with that, you know? So it's the intimacy, it's the spaciousness. And I fully trust that the person who's in front of me knows, oh, I might ask a question right now. I'm not opposed against questions. I'm not opposed to be interrupted, but I will certainly say, can you please hold it for a moment? I got more to say. I'm open to hear you later. Just be honest, as in every conversation, state your needs, and then you can have the most magnificent experiences in that process. Yeah.
Beautiful. If I could add
I have something more.
Yes.
Sorry. It's quick. When I have been in a situation where I felt like a victim when I didn't have soundboarding people, and I'm seeing that a lot show up in the mental projectors I know. Oh, People don't know about the mental projector. Oh, they don't know how to hold space. I just have no one to soundboard for me. And I've absolutely been there. I want to give you an empowering way to move out of that. When you start to see the problem, okay, then you can pivot and give the other person the benefit of the doubt. You can absolutely educate and teach and inform another person about your needs. You don't need to throw in all the human design terminology. You got to be a soundboard, blah, 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 blah. No, you can just go to the person you want to speak about and say, hey, I would like to speak about that. And here's what I need. And then you state what you need. Works really well. Just wanted to say that.
And only an empowered mental projector can really do that, because oftentimes in our life, the experience is very much of, I'm going to shift myself in order to accommodate you so that I can get the little amount of recognition and attention that comes my way. Like that's what a not self mental projector is doing in the world.
Yeah.
And then to show up and take up space and to be like, hey, actually, I need my voice to take up space and time. I need my expression to take up space and time. That really does require a deep self-recognition and respect for who you are, which also takes time. That's another thing that I want to say. If you are a mental projector that's started on your journey or you're a few years in, it's okay that you're not there yet where you can be like, hey, this is what I need. But you can start to work up to that. I think I'm going to quickly ask you two more questions before we bring this to a close. The first one that I wanted to know a little bit more about is your relationship with your bitterness and how it has evolved since the beginning of your experiment.
At the beginning, bitterness was a threat. At the beginning, I was believing I did something wrong. I fucked it up. That's the only explanation I had for being bitter. There's something that I did that was not okay. And I honestly didn't know how to deal with bitterness so much. It was a very strange sensation, different than frustration, different than anger, different than sadness. I couldn't really pinpoint. I didn't know exactly what to do with it, but it straightly tied into victimhood. I'm not seen. No one understands me. Yeah, cosmic joke. I'm really so unique and eccentric in my design that rarely people will understand me. And if they do, it's a blessing. And that's also for all projectors. You're really not here to be understood from everyone. But it tied into victimhood and into passivity, into feeling depressed and feeling, there's no solution, a heaviness on my shoulders. It evolved over time, as it does with the third line body, testing and trialing and seeing how it changes. But I didn't like it for many years. Didn't like it. Now I really like it. I really like it and say, hello, okay. Not always that fun. It's not all honey and roses.
I'm
not
like,
at all.
oh, man.
Now, let me get there. I'm getting there. Bear with me. It's not that I'm happy when it shows up, but it has an equal seat at the table as success and as every other part, emotion and feeling. That's probably more accurate to say. I'm probably in the first moment, it's gonna, oh gosh, you again. I don't need you right now. I have no space for you. But then eventually the only way through is really listening to what has a bitterness to say. And I can do that especially well when I'm walking. When I'm walking in nature, when there's no interference, or when I'm speaking about it with a friend and being open. This really pissed me off. And over time, either in nature or in speaking with a friend, I get to what is really underneath. And then I see, oh, it's just a signpost. It's just nothing wrong about it. It suddenly, there comes a light bulb moment. All right. In my case, it often has to do with when I'm overdoing things, when I don't know when to stop, and when I'm doing more for others than they invited me or asked me for. That's usually when I have the strongest bitterness. And before I was projecting it onto the other, and now it's kind of, all right, gone over the limit. Not a nice feeling. Okay, you even can master the art of restraint more. And then I see what I can do. It becomes obvious now. Either shut the fuck up, just mind your own business, just focus on what brings you pleasure and joy. That's kind of, it's no threat anymore, bitterness. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. I don't
How's
like
it for you?
How's it for you?
Guilt queen.
Yeah, I mean, I think what has changed for me since the beginning of my experiment really is that I don't experience bitterness as often now. But, and because I don't experience it as often now, when it does show up, it's like the grossest feeling in my body. It is like there is no way for me to ignore my bitterness anymore. And I think that's a good thing because when it does show up now, I become, it's like my eyes open up and it's like, okay, what happened here? Let's actually see what happened here. Why am I experiencing this? And again, similar to you, it's like, how do I reel it back? Like either I'm probing where I'm not invited, and it's important for me to understand that there's nothing for me anywhere where I'm not invited. So let's just bring it back. There's also often, like sometimes it's strange for me, and I think I'm still processing this in some ways. It's like sometimes guilt shows up, and oftentimes that can accompany like kind of like a sour feeling that maybe not entirely is even bitterness, right? And it's important for me to begin to decipher between the two now, because I am someone that is here to fix things. I am someone that sees issues. I am someone that, picks up like, I mean, I even have judgment sense underneath it. I just feel like something's wrong there, And oftentimes it can, regardless of any kind of relationship it is, or like with friends or any other kind of relationship really, or in work, there's always this guilt, there's always that feeling. And sometimes I can mistake that as well to be like, am I not recognized here? Am I experiencing bitterness, or am I experiencing, oh, things need to shift and change here? And I need to gain clarity about what needs to shift and change here and express that, and then see if there is success in that, right? If I do have that sweet feeling after that. So I think how my relationship has changed with bitterness now, I experience it less, but when I experience it, it's extremely drastic and there's no way to ignore it. But also, I'm more in my guilt now than ever before. And so sometimes I can be like, am I bitter? Am I guilty? What is this? And of course, like talking about it is something that's really helpful. And when I do process things, I do get to the bottom of things. But I would say as well that it has a place in my life as a signpost, and it's not a pleasant experience. And I can't even pretend like it is. It just does not feel good in the system. It's not, I don't want to be anywhere when I'm not wanted. I don't want to probe anyone that does not want to be probed. I think that's really rude. If someone doesn't want me in their life, if someone doesn't want me looking at them, I have no business being there. I don't want to be anywhere like that, Go on.
add something?
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. I think a very easy thing, not easy, but a very efficient thing to play with is when you feel bitter in a relationship. Well, usually it has to do with another person, the bitterness that shows up, right? So try how it feels to withdraw the attention, not in a mean way, not, oh, I'm going to punish you now. No, no, no. We won't. Just chill. Just become aware that one of the most precious assets you have as a projector is your attention and your awareness. People want you to look at them generally. People have eyes on them, which is fair. And that's part of the projector role, right? But when you can train that, you can train to consciously pull your attention back. And often I have observed that's when some sort of ease come into, because let's face it, when you penetrate another person with your aura and that is not invited, it can feel literally like you're violating them. Very unpleasant to be under the radar all the time or often. So yeah, just play with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a necessary skill for any
Survival skill.
For sure. Otherwise, projectors can really drive themselves absolutely crazy. And I think, I don't know, this is just like an opinion. I feel like most anxiously attached people in the world are projectors. And it's because once we start absorbing someone and focusing in on them, we don't know how to take our attention back, or we don't know how to like where to almost put our aura sometimes, because it is a people oriented aura.
Yeah.
And it is a plug that is wanting to go into the socket. And there's a lot of dysfunction in needing that because you haven't received enough of that or in a correct way, which we need to work through as projectors. But really, it is an important skill to learn as a projector that, yeah, I need to, when I am feeling bitterness, when I am feeling sour, when I am feeling resentment, the natural thing is to manipulate to get recognition, whereas we need to do the opposite, is to step back and actually witness, is there actually real recognition or not? Do I want to continue looking at this person or not, or looking at this thing or not? Do I want to continue to give it attention or not? If not, okay, I can take my attention somewhere else. I can take that attention and learn a new skill or get better at something, or I can rest.
Exactly.
I can surround myself, like, for example, both of us are landscape bodies, right? So I'm just going to surround myself with nature and absorb that and focus on that. That's a healing frequency to focus on.
Yeah.
So I think it is such a necessary skill that you're mentioning, and yet the hardest. Yeah,
that's why I took back easy or simple what I said in the beginning, but it's really efficient.
Yeah.
And you can learn it. And if I speak in everyday lingo, it's really a self-care tool. It's not your doing as a projector, it's your awareness and your attention and your seeing and your perspective in that. So when you understand that, when you really understand that, you start also to treat your attention a little bit more respectful. I'm not talking about the oracle mechanics here, but you start to understand that it's precious, right?
Tell me one thing. So it is about awareness for us. It is about seeing for us. What do you do when you're distracted and you're transferred and you cannot see? How do you experience that? And what helps you? Is it time? Is it processing, talking it out, or anything else? What helps you get back into your seeing?
When I'm in transference, in my case, I'm motivated by need, and I transfer into fear. And for a long time, I got that wrong. I was so focused. Do I feel fearful? But to me, the biggest indicator is, am I lost in the weeds? Am I lost in the details? Am I trying to understand the how I'm going to do it rather than the what needs to be done? Right? Well, I'm totally open about it. For a long time, I didn't even see it. I didn't even notice. I was just noticing, oh, my mind is really busy. I'm really getting more tired than usual. But when I feel it, that I'm off track, and that is when I focus on stuff that is not necessary for me to know. So I could understand my my transference better when I understood my real motivation. What is really motivation? High level overview, big picture. What is essential? What is needed? What is missing here? That's my jam. Everything outside of that brings me into transference. So getting back often is stopping, pausing, what I'm obsessively thinking about, all the details I want to put on my to-do list or whatever, stopping, just really brutally stopping or slowing it down and forcing myself, because at that point we're talking about forcing, to do something else, whether that is laying down or walking in nature or cuddling the dog or whatever. Just step outside of the situation, and it is only then usually that I can talk about it. And I always appreciate a friend calling it out in me, because still I have moments where I don't see it.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, because it is about coming back into your body rather than, staying in your mind and fixing it from the mind, because it's really not possible, right? Even if you do spot it, that I find that you can't really fix it like that. So I think what helps me as well is just coming back to my body and not paying that much attention to my mind. And even if it is spiraling, sure, sometimes talking helps. I think, we really can empower ourselves through our own voice. That is helpful. But oftentimes for me, it's just time and just coming back to my body, doing something more body oriented than continuing to run in the loop in my mind. Right.
Yeah. And trusting. We need is one that always transfer it. Trusting that it snaps back. Trusting. I find, probably I haven't talked about that enough today. Cultivating self-trust. No matter how weird your process looks to the outside world, no matter how weird it feels or lonely, whatever, for everything what we basically talked about today, cultivating self-trust is so helpful. And also with transference, it will snap back.
Yeah. And just looking at it as a part of the design. It is a part of the design in a way, because
It's not bad.
it's a mechanical reality, it is. A mind is designed to go back and forth. There's nothing wrong with transference or distraction. It's just about understanding that that's not where you can offer true outer authority to anyone, really.
Yes.
That's it, you know?
That's it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
No, I just want to say, I mean, you know that. I'm not a dogmatist. I'm an essentialist, and I needed to step away from very dogmatic human design approaches and perspectives and expressions, because when I see transference as something to avoid, when transference or distraction or anything where we say we are not in our true nature becomes something, again, to be ashamed of or to avoid or bad, no, that is just not helpful to me in my process. And when I started to unchain myself, to bust the chains from that, and started really leaning into, well, I'm just going to try it out. I'm a third line anyway. I'm bumping into stuff all the time that goes wrong. So why not lean more into exploring both sides of the spectrum and everything in between. And that's when I had light bulb moment after light bulb moment when we're talking now about distraction and transference. Getting really intimate with both of them and the journey in between. How does it feel? And not blaming it.
So then, on this hot topic, I'm curious, what other human design teachings that you came across, maybe they're from Ra, maybe they're from other teachers or people who made something of human design or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
What other human design teachings you felt like didn't work for you, or you felt like actually that is not solid enough?
Well, I'm certainly not going to put people on the spot, but what I can say that every teacher, mentor, program, course that is not allowing and encouraging my own experimentation is not working for me. When someone is saying, or I see that every now and then, that it is only what Ra said. Yes and no. You can respect source material, but you can still, I think it is very important to flavor it with your own understanding and awareness. And I said that to you recently. I speak many languages. Human design is an awareness language for me. And as a values person, I want to tap into different fields. I don't want to speak all the time one language. It's extremely boring for me. So when I find that a language and expression becomes too restrictive, I usually start to be turned off, or I start to explore. And this is what I found out on this journey, that when I cannot use the word ego only because in human design it has a specific meaning, and I cannot say to another person, take your ego back and then things will get easier, then I'm highly restricting myself. I'm not all the time talking human design. I'm not all the time talking in keynotes. Though this is what I learned on my journey by being surrounded by very dogmatic people and teachers. This is not my jam. And I always have been thriving more in learning environments that were inclusive, where there's diversity. And I do appreciate accuracy. I do appreciate when it is close to the source, but come on, we are in 2024 when we're recording this. It's 3 years away from 2027. Let's not focus so much on the semantics. Let's focus on how can we empower, again, this is my channel, the broadest range of people possible to live based on their own authority. Yeah, that's what I've got to say.
Yeah. I mean, and if you really listen to Ra, and if you really go into human design, truly, then Ra will empower you to be your own authority. And that is the bottom line of this entire system.
Yeah.
Now, I'm someone that's quite technical. I'm someone that's like, I'm a fan of keynotes. I'm not a fan of changing things. I'm a fan of really precise language. I'm also very logical. So sometimes people say a bunch of bullshit that actually has no logical grounding in the teachings or in the system at all. And I cannot digest that. But at the same time, I fully understand that people are going to navigate this system, this knowledge in the way that they're going to navigate it. And actually, the way that I approach these things is, if your outer authority doesn't resonate with my inner authority, then it's not a match. And I don't need to comment on anything beyond that. You know?
Exactly.
That's it.
Great point.
Either my inner authority likes what you're saying or it doesn't. And even if it doesn't mean that you're wrong or I need to prove that. I just don't care. I just don't care enough. So, and I know the human design space is a kind of, I have my own opinions about it. I have my own assessments and judgments of it. But I really, really don't want to encourage an environment in which a system that talks about uniqueness quashes uniqueness. A system
Yeah.
talks about being your own authority shoots people down for experimenting with trying to be their own authority.
Yeah.
I am not anybody's god. I don't want to be anybody's god. And I think that is something that's very important for me when I'm also associating with people or learning with people or talking with people in this space. Is like, sure, you can have your outer authority and I can have mine, but the only exchange that is a given here is communication. It's not compliance, it's not control, it's not agreement. That's not nine-centered communion. You have your truth and I have my truth, and I can respect you for your truth, and I expect respect for my truth. Yeah.
I love that. And it ties in with my understanding, like I have the flavor already coming in from the RAX of Defiance from my Chiron return, who's coming up in 2026. And it is really that you need drama, you need your way of doing it. Bless you. You're going to be fine. I'm just going to follow my direction and the direction of beauty. And I think it's more a detached way. And it might be absolutely fun and okay for people to be in the meat, in the kitchen, in the mix and match. I'm not. And I know you're also not. So everyone,
Mountains environment. Like, I'm not
yeah,
Like,
everyone find their lane and be happy, you know? Why
yeah,
not?
for sure, for sure. Okay, last question that I have for you, my friend. What does projector success mean to you? How does success feel for you in your body? Does success still have the same meaning it had for you when you were introduced to the system, or has it evolved?
Oh yeah, for sure. When I entered the system, all I could understand with the limited capacity and perspective I had was success equals money. Because that's how I grew up. I grew up in Germany, a highly productive, doing oriented country. It's like you are successful when you earn good money, when you have a good job. This was my conditioning. So I thought, oh, well, then that's it as a projector. Yeah. And that's how I operated a while. And then I find the journey with success, the definition of success for me has become more subtle, like as if it is a big word. And then underneath, it's like having little roots that go in all different directions. And it's almost, it changes, it mutates. It's never the same. What feels like success for me now might not feel like success next year. And I'm totally okay with that. So for now, to me, is having the spaciousness and the freedom to decide how I'm going to live my day. That is a major success. Having the freedom of speaking my thoughts, that's also success. Being recognized and invited to share my outer authority, that is success. Being able to rest, that's a success. Moving into the direction of beauty and finding out what feels healthy inside of me, you know, it's really more the little things. And interestingly enough, then some form of what is called outer excess follows. But before I have been focused on outer material success, and now it's like of how do I feel inside? And to me, I mean, it might sound really boring, but to me, it has a lot to do with that spaciousness. Can my body exhale? I mean, I have a passive environment. It's really my body's meant to relax. So when you ask me how does it feel, it feels spacious, but it also feels very uplifting. You use the word sweet. I know that's one of your expressions for success. it is also peaceful for me. It is translating to you're on the right track. It feels healthy. It feels, I know those are all not feelings. It's hard to describe in words, actually, those are not feelings I'm getting aware. Yeah.
It's because success is a frequency. It's not necessarily.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's
it's more like, to me, it has a lot to do actually with the undefined, or I have an undefined sacral. It's like having an antenna to the vibrational tone of life. That's how it feels a little bit. And I notice it's hard to describe, so I'm going to stop. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
What's yours? Yeah. Now you can reflect.
A really simple way that I would say it, I'm not going to stretch it too long. But for me, if I wake up and it's sweet for me to be myself, exactly who I am, whatever that expression is that day, whether I'm quiet and learning something, whether I'm more extroverted and interacting with my network, whether I am on my bed horizontal all day long, or I am lifting weights or on a trek. For me, success is just being able to wake up every single day and feeling like it's sweet to be who you are. So,
yeah. And that's huge, to feel sweet when you're feeling melancholic at the same time, or just, I hear a lot of acceptance in when you say that. Right?
Yeah. Well, I do have the channel of acceptance.
You do. You do.
My life is nothing but accepting things as they are, understanding them as they are, so there can be some clarity. And I think I really am at that place in my journey where I'm really in touch with my process as a mental projector. And what is of importance to me is that process. And I do not worry about anything more than that. And the fact that I don't worry about anything more than that itself is such a massive, drastic change than who I've been all my life. And I just wake up every day and enjoy being an intellectual being that is talented at certain things and selective about certain things, that's very invested in her friendships and the people in her life. And that is just joyous to me. I don't really need much else than that.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, that sounds so liberated. Yeah.
From one liberated mental projector to another. Thank you for that lovely, lovely conversation. I feel like we went in all sorts of direction and touched all sorts of depth, which I often find is so easy to do with you. So thank you, friend.